Christmas dinners are supposed to be warm, safe, predictable.
But mine?
It became the night my family accidentally discovered the truth about me and set off a revenge story they never saw coming. My name is Ariana Wells. I'm 34 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon. And for the past 6 years, I've worked as a digital acquisition strategist, which is just a complicated way of saying I build and scale online businesses quietly, obsessively, and very profitably. But my family never used that title. To them, I was just Ariana with a laptop. This story starts on Christmas Eve. Snow outside. Cinnamon candles burning. The house packed with relatives who only show up once a year, but somehow know exactly how to judge your entire life in 5 minutes. I had arrived early, like always, because that's my role. The helper, the planner, the one who doesn't really have a real job. So clearly I must have free time. I ordered catered food from 3 different places,
Timed it down to the minute.
warmed plates, refolded napkins, fixed the tree lights, even covered the cost quietly when my mom said, "We'll just figure it out later." Later never comes. We finally sat down at the table. Turkey steaming, wine already flowing. My mom, Diane, took her first sip, leaned back, and did that little smirk she does when she's about to entertain herself. She tapped her fork against her glass. "So," she said, eyes drifting straight to me. "Ariana, are you still doing that computer thing?"
A pause.
"Too long." "You know," she continued, smiling wider, clicking around online, pretending it's work. The table chuckled. Not everyone, but enough. My cousin looked down at her plate. My aunt laughed politely. My brother Evan, golden child, serial dreamer, full-time opinion haver, laughed loudest of all. "Mom," he said, "don't be mean. Ari's an entrepreneur." He dragged the word like it was a joke. My face burned, but I smiled anyway, because that's what I always do. I said, "Yeah, still working online." Simple, neutral, non-threatening. Inside, something cracked. Because here's the thing no one at that table knew. I had already paid off my condo. I had 0 debt. And my little computer thing had crossed $23.7 million in cumulative revenue just 2 months earlier. But I never told them. Not because I was ashamed. Because I was tired. Tired of defending. Tired of explaining. Tired of watching people who never supported me suddenly feel entitled to my success. So I stayed quiet. The conversation drifted, like it always does, back to Evan. His plans. His ideas. His potential. Potential that had been discussed every Christmas for the last decade, despite 0 follow-through. I excused myself, saying I needed to grab my charger from the living room. What I actually needed was air. I opened my laptop out of habit. A reflex at this point. 1 quick check. 5 seconds. That's all. A dashboard loaded automatically. Live numbers. Green arrows. Metrics updating in real time. I didn't hear the footsteps behind me. I didn't notice Evan lingering in the doorway. And I definitely didn't realize that 1 careless second was about to flip the power dynamic in our family forever. Before I could close the screen, Evan leaned forward and said, "Wait, Ariana, what is that?" And that's when everything changed. "Hold on, before we get into the real stuff, I want to know, what are you doing at this exact moment while hearing my voice? I love seeing your answers down below in the comments." Because the number he was staring at, he thought it was a mistake. But his reaction told me something terrifying. He finally understood my value. And he wasn't happy about it. The moment Evan saw the number, his smile disappeared. Not confusion. Not pride. Something darker. He squinted at my screen like it had personally offended him. "Wait," he said slowly, stepping closer, lowering his voice. "That can't be real." I snapped the laptop halfway shut instinctively, heart racing. Too late. The damage was done. "What?" I asked, forcing a laugh. "It's just analytics." "Analytics don't look like that," he shot back. He reached out, like he was about to open my laptop himself. I pulled it back. "Evan, I warned, keeping my voice calm. Calm was my armor. It's nothing. He stared at me, really stared, like he was recalculating our entire lives in his head. Did that say 8 figures? He whispered. I didn't answer. Silence stretched between us, thick and dangerous. From the dining room, my mom's voice floated in. What are you two doing in there? Dessert's getting cold. Evan didn't look away from me. He leaned back, crossed his arms, and smiled. But it wasn't his usual careless grin. It was sharp. Oh, nothing, he called back. Just finding out my little sister's been hiding something. My stomach dropped. I closed the laptop fully and stood up. You saw nothing. He laughed quietly. Ari, don't insult me. I know numbers. And whatever that was. He shook his head. That's not freelance laptop money. I stepped past him toward the hallway. Drop it. It's Christmas. He followed me anyway. Back at the table, the energy shifted the second we sat down. Evan couldn't stop glancing at me. My mom noticed immediately. What? She asked him. Did Ariana finally admit she needs a real job? The table laughed again. Something inside me snapped, but not loudly, not dramatically, silently. Evan cleared his throat. Actually, Mom, you might want to rethink that. My fork froze midair. What do you mean? Diane asked. He turned to me, eyebrows raised, like he was daring me to stop him. I said nothing. He smiled wider. Ariana's online thing? He continued. It's making a lot more money than we thought. The table went quiet. How much? My aunt asked. Evan shrugged. Hard to say. The dashboard updates live. But the number I saw, he whistled. More than anyone at this table, combined. Every head turned toward me. Heat rushed to my face. My mom laughed awkwardly. Okay, Evan, that's enough. I'm serious, he said. Ari, tell them. I set my fork down carefully. Tell them what? That you're rich, he said bluntly. The word hung in the air. Rich. My mom scoffed. Oh, please. Ariana's always been imaginative. That one hurt more than the joke earlier. I took a breath. Slow. Controlled. I never said I was rich, I replied. I said I work online. Evan leaned back, satisfied. Yeah. And you forgot to mention the part where your work is pulling in tens of millions. My mom's smile faltered. Is that true? She asked me. All eyes on me. No escape. I could have denied it. I could have laughed it off. I could have minimized. But something told me it was too late. Yes, I said quietly. It's true. The silence was deafening. My mom blinked. How much? I hesitated. Evan answered for me. North of 20 million, he said. From what I could tell. My mom's face changed instantly. Pride? Shock? No. Calculation. Oh my God, she said, placing a hand over her chest. Ariana, why didn't you tell us? I almost laughed. Why didn't I tell you? The woman who mocked my work 10 minutes ago? Before I could answer, Evan leaned forward. So, he said casually about that. My heart sank. He smiled like a man who just found leverage. You know, I've been thinking about starting something new. A business. And clearly, you know what you're doing. There it was. The demand. You could invest, he continued. Family discount, obviously. I mean, what's a few million between siblings? My mom nodded eagerly. That makes sense, Ariana. It's only fair. Evan's always supported you. I stared at them. Supported me? This wasn't curiosity anymore. This wasn't pride. This was entitlement. And as I looked around that table, I realized something chilling. They didn't see me differently. They saw my money differently, and they already assumed it belonged to them. But what they didn't know was that I had already planned for this exact moment. You never really know your family until money enters the room. The air felt heavier after Evan's little suggestion. Not tense, expectant. Like they were all waiting for me to nod, smile, and say yes, like I always did. My mom reached across the table and touched my hand. Her voice softened, suddenly sweet. Ariana, honey, she said, we're just proud of you. You should have trusted us enough to share this.
Trusted.
The word hit like a joke. I gently pulled my hand back. I didn't hide anything. You just never asked. That landed poorly. My aunt cleared her throat. Well, if you're doing that well, it's only natural family would be curious. Curious. Another soft word hiding sharp intentions. Evan leaned forward, elbows on the table, confidence fully restored.
Exactly.
And look, I'm not asking for a handout. I'm talking partnership. I raised an eyebrow. In what? He waved his hand vaguely. A startup. I've been workshopping the idea. It's big. Crypto adjacent. You wouldn't really get it. I almost choked on my water. I wouldn't get it. I repeated. He shrugged. Different worlds. My mom nodded along. Evans always had vision. Vision. No execution. But that detail never seemed to matter. I took a slow breath. Evan, I don't invest in things I don't understand. His smile tightened. Come on. You made your money online too. Same thing. It wasn't. Not even close. But explaining that would require them to respect what I do. And history told me better. The conversation shifted. Not away from money, just deeper into it. My cousin asked about taxes. My aunt asked if I could help her son get into tech. My mom asked, half joking, if I could finally upgrade her kitchen. Every question assumed access. I felt like a vault they were trying different combinations on. Evan was watching me closely.
Studying.
Waiting for the crack. So, he said eventually, lowering his voice, what's your net worth? There it was. I stood up. I need some air. I walked out onto the back porch, the cold biting instantly. My hands were shaking, not from the temperature. Behind me, the door creaked. Evan followed. Hey, he said, suddenly serious. You don't have to get weird about this. We stood under the porch light, snow falling softly around us. I'm not being weird, I said. I'm being cautious. He scoffed. About family? I turned to him. About people who laughed at me an hour ago. His jaw clenched. That was a joke. It didn't feel like one. Silence again. Then he sighed.
Look.
You're clearly successful.
Good for you.
But don't you think it's selfish to just sit on that kind of money? Selfish. The word snapped something else into place. You know what's selfish? I said calmly, assuming you're entitled to something you didn't help build. He bristled. I'm your brother. Yes, I replied. Not my business partner. He laughed, but there was no humor in it.
Wow.
Money really changed you. I smiled sadly.
No.
Money just revealed you. His expression hardened. So that's it, he asked. You won't even consider helping me? I looked him in the eye. I never said that. Hope flickered across his face. I said I don't invest blindly. He nodded slowly. Okay, then let me pitch you.
Properly.
Tomorrow. Just us. I hesitated. Not because I wanted to say yes, but because I realized something important. Evan thought he was negotiating. He had no idea. I had already decided what kind of help I was going to give him. We went back inside. The table buzzed with fake cheer, but the shift was permanent. My mom watched me like a stranger, like a resource she hadn't tapped yet. Dessert came and went. Eventually, coats were grabbed. Goodbyes exchanged. As I put on my boots, my mom pulled me aside. Ariana, she said quietly. You know, Evans always had it hard. I met her gaze. So did I. She frowned. We just want what's best for the family. I nodded. So do I. She smiled, satisfied. She thought she'd won something. As I drove home through the snow, my phone buzzed. A text from Evan. Evan, tomorrow. Noon. I'll bring the deck. Don't make this difficult. I stared at the message. Then I opened my calendar and scheduled something very different. Because if they wanted a lesson in money, I was about to teach them one they'd never forget. The next day wasn't going to be a negotiation. It was going to be a demonstration. When people think they've gained leverage over you, they get careless. That's when you let them talk. The next morning, I woke up calm.
Too calm.
The kind of calm that only comes when a decision has already been made. I didn't text Evan back right away. I made coffee, answered emails, approved a media buy that would out-earn his startup idea in a week. Only then did I reply. Me, noon works. Send the deck. 3 dots appeared instantly. He'd been waiting. While he prepared his pitch, I prepared something else. Not a trap. Not revenge in the loud, dramatic sense. Something cleaner, colder, more permanent. At exactly 11:58 a.m., Evan pulled into my driveway. He'd never been to my place before. Not really. He'd always called it temporary. He stepped out of his car slowly, eyes scanning my condo building. Modern. Glass. Quiet. This is nice, he said, forcing a smile. Thanks, I replied. Come in. We sat at my kitchen island. He opened his laptop immediately, confidence fully back in place.
Charts.
Logos. Buzzwords. Okay, he said, rubbing his hands together. So, the concept is simple. We leverage decentralized. Evan, I interrupted gently. Before you start, I have a question.
He paused. Sure.
Why me? He laughed. What do you mean? Why do you want my money?
I asked.
Specifically. He blinked. Because you have it? I waited. And because you're family, he added quickly. And because you understand online business. I nodded. Do I? Obviously, he said. You didn't just get lucky. That was new. I slid my laptop across the counter toward him. Then look, I said. He hesitated. At what? My portfolio, I replied. His eyes lit up. He leaned in eagerly, scrolling. Revenue streams. Acquisitions. Exit multiples. Risk models. His expression shifted with every swipe. This is serious, he muttered. Yes, I said. It is. He scrolled faster. Why didn't you ever let you see this? I finished. Because I wanted to know who you were before you knew.
He looked up sharply.
What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said evenly, that support that appears after success isn't support. It's opportunism. His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Isn't it? He closed the laptop slowly. So, what are you saying? I folded my hands. I'm saying I don't invest in ideas. I invest in people. He leaned forward. Exactly. So, and I've been investing in you. I continued. He froze. What?
For years, I said.
Just not financially. I pulled out my phone and opened a folder. Job referrals I'd sent quietly. Courses I'd paid for anonymously. Introductions he never followed up on. His face drained of color. You think those emails just appeared? I asked softly. You think those opportunities were random? He stared at the screen, silent. I watched. I continued. Every time you said you were about to start something. Every time you quit when it got hard. That's not, he started. I'm not finished, I said calmly. I stood up. You don't need capital, I said. You need discipline. And I can't buy that for you. His voice dropped. So you're saying no? I smiled. I'm saying I already gave you what you needed. He stood too, anger flashing. You think you're better than me now? I met his gaze.
No.
I think I stopped pretending I was less. He grabbed his laptop. You know what?
Fine.
Keep your money. I will, I said. He stormed out. 5 minutes later, my phone rang.
Mom.
I answered. What did you do to your brother? She demanded. I leaned against the counter. I told him the truth. Her voice sharpened. He said you humiliated him. No, I replied. I educated him. Silence. Then, coldly, you've changed, Ariana. I smiled to myself.
No, I said.
I've just stopped paying for being underestimated. I hung up. That night, Evan posted something vague online. About betrayal. About greed. About families showing their true colors. People commented. Took sides.
I didn't respond.
Because the real lesson hadn't landed yet. What I did next wasn't about Evan at all. It was about my mother. And Christmas wasn't over. Evan thought the story was over. My mom thought she still had control. They were both wrong. 2 days after Christmas, my mom invited me over for coffee. Not asked. Invited. That difference matters. Her message was short. We need to talk. Just us.
I knew what that meant.
No witnesses. No interruptions. Just pressure, clean and direct. I arrived on time. She hates lateness. Always has. The house looked the same as it did my entire childhood. Same couch. Same framed photos. Same hierarchy. She poured coffee and sat across from me. Hands folded like this was a negotiation she fully expected to win. I raised you better than this, she began. I didn't respond. You embarrassed your brother, she continued. He hasn't slept. He feels betrayed. I took a sip of coffee.
Calm.
Silent. She frowned. Are you listening? Yes, I said. I'm just not apologizing. Her lips tightened. You owe him an explanation. I gave him one.
No, she snapped.
You gave him a lecture. You acted superior. I leaned back. You mocked my work. He laughed. Then he demanded money. And I'm the problem? She waved her hand dismissively. That was before we knew. There it was. Before we knew. I leaned forward. So respect only comes after numbers? She hesitated. Just a fraction. I'm saying, she replied carefully. Family supports family. I nodded. I agree. She relaxed. Mistake. And I've been supporting this family quietly for years, I added. Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I set my cup down and opened my phone. Remember the time you needed help covering the property taxes? I asked. She blinked. Yes. You loan me some money. No, I corrected. I paid it. She opened her mouth to interrupt. And the new roof? I continued. The medical bill for Aunt Carol? Evan's rent that mysteriously got covered when he lost his job. Her face drained slowly. That was you, she whispered. Yes, I said. Every time. She stared at me like she was seeing a ghost. I didn't tell you, I continued, because I didn't want gratitude. I wanted peace. Her voice shook. Then why are you bringing it up now? Because you call me selfish, I replied. And selfish people don't do those things. Silence stretched. She stood abruptly and walked to the window. Classic move. Distance for dominance. You could have said something, she muttered. I stood too. You could have asked. She turned. So, what is this? She demanded. Revenge. I considered that. No, I said honestly. This is boundaries. She scoffed. That's just a trendy word for cutting people off. No, I corrected. It's a word for stopping the bleed. She crossed her arms. So you won't help Evan? I will, I said. Her head snapped up. You will. Yes, I said calmly. Just not with money. She frowned. Then how? I smiled. I already did. Confusion flickered across her face. I pulled strings, I explained. Got him interviews. Connected him to mentors. Opened doors. Her expression shifted from confusion to realization. And he didn't walk through them, she said quietly. No, I agreed. He didn't. She sat back down slowly. For the first time, she looked tired. Older. You've always been like this, she said softly. Independent. Quiet. I nodded, because being loud never protected me here. She looked at me, really looked at me. I didn't know, she said. I know, I replied. That's the problem. Another pause. Then she asked the question I'd been waiting for. So, what happens now? I picked up my coat. Now, I said. Nothing dramatic. I don't punish. I don't announce. I just stop overgiving. Her voice cracked. You're pulling away. I met her eyes. I'm pulling back to neutral. I walked toward the door. Ariana, she called after me. Are you cutting us off? I paused, hand on the handle. No, I said. I'm letting you meet me where I am, not where you assumed I'd stay. That night, Evan texted me again. Evan. Mom says you're trying to turn her against me. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded him an email, a confirmed interview, a real company, a real chance, one last gift. Whether he used it wasn't my responsibility anymore. But the final shift in power didn't come from a conversation. It came from silence. And that silence hit them harder than any argument ever could. Silence is terrifying when people are used to having access to you. For the first time in years, I didn't call. I didn't check in. I didn't fix anything behind the scenes. And the family noticed immediately. 3 days passed. Then 4. Then my mom texted. Everything okay? I replied hours later.
Polite. Short.
Neutral.
Yes.
Busy with work. That was true, but not the whole truth. The truth was, I was finally working without emotional interference. No guilt. No side comments. No subtle digs disguised as concern. And my business responded instantly. One of my companies closed a quiet acquisition that week. 7 figures.
Clean.
Efficient. Normally, I would have shared the win. Not for praise, just connection. This time, I didn't. Evan, meanwhile, went quiet online. No more vague posts. No motivational quotes. No grind talk. Then, a week later, my mom showed up at my door. Unannounced. I opened it slowly. She stood there with a paper bag. My favorite pastries. A peace offering. I was in the neighborhood, she said. I stepped aside. Come in. She sat at my kitchen table, glancing around like she was seeing the space for the first time. Not as temporary. Not as luck. As earned. You've built something impressive, she said carefully. I nodded. Thank you. She folded her hands. Evan didn't get the job. I didn't react. They said he wasn't prepared, she continued. That he talked more than he listened. I stayed silent. She sighed. He's angry. Says the world's stacked against him. I met her eyes. It's not. She looked away. I think, she said slowly, I may have protected him too much. That was new. I said nothing. I thought pushing you was helping, she added. I didn't realize I was minimizing you. There it was. Not an apology, but close. I softened slightly. Intent doesn't erase impact. She nodded. Another pause. Are you punishing us? She asked. No, I replied. I'm recalibrating. She looked confused. I stopped overfunctioning, I explained. Stopped absorbing everyone else's instability. She swallowed. And what happens to us? I smiled gently. You adapt. She stayed a while longer. We talked, carefully, like strangers learning new rules. When she left, she hugged me tighter than usual. That night, Evan finally called. I let it ring twice. Hello.
His voice was sharp.
Defensive.
So.
Guess I failed your little test. I closed my eyes briefly. There was no test. Sure felt like one, he snapped. You had me jump through hoops just to prove some point. I stayed calm.
No, Evan.
Life did that. He exhaled hard. You think you're above all this now? No, I said. I think I'm done carrying it. Silence. Then, quietly, I didn't know you helped me before. I know, I replied. That's why I stopped. That's messed up, he muttered. Is it? I asked. Or is it just unfamiliar? He didn't answer. I sent you the interview because I wanted you to succeed. I continued. But I won't finance avoidance. Another long pause. You could have just said no, he said. I did. I replied. You just didn't hear it until now. He sighed. So that's it. I considered. No, I said. This is the reset. We hung up without resolution. And that was okay. Because something subtle had shifted. They weren't angry anymore. They were uncertain. And uncertainty is where old power structures break. 2 weeks later, my mom invited me to dinner again. Smaller this time. No extended family. No audience. Just the 3 of us. I agreed. We sat at the table, same one as Christmas, but the energy was different. No jokes. No digs. No assumptions. Evan barely touched his food. At one point, he looked at me and said, I didn't realize how hard you worked. I nodded. You didn't want to. He swallowed. Maybe. That night, I realized something important. This was a revenge in the explosive sense. It was something quieter, something more dangerous. I had removed myself from the role they needed me to play, and without that role, they had to confront themselves. But the final moment, the one that truly settled the balance, was still coming, and it would happen the next Christmas. The second Christmas is always the real test. A year passed. No explosions. No dramatic reunions. Just distance, measured, intentional, necessary. During that year, my life expanded in ways I hadn't predicted. I moved into a larger place overlooking the river. I sold one company. I stepped back from another. More importantly, I stopped shrinking. Family contact became balanced. No emergency calls. No guilt-fueled favors. No jokes at my expense. And then December came again. My mom called in early November. Would you come for Christmas? She asked carefully. Just dinner. Not a demand. Not an expectation. An invitation. I will, I said, as a guest.
She paused.
Of course. That pause mattered. Christmas Eve felt familiar, but different. Same house. Same decorations. Different energy. No audience this time. Just immediate family. Evan looked thinner. Quieter. When I walked in, he stood up. Hey, he said. Hey, I replied. We hugged. Awkward, brief, real. Dinner began without commentary. No jokes about work. No probing questions. Halfway through, my mom cleared her throat. I want to say something, she said. My stomach tightened. I spent a lot of years thinking Ariana needed fixing, she continued, and I confused control with care. Evan stared at his plate. I'm sorry, she said, for not seeing you, for making you feel small. It wasn't perfect, but it was sincere. I nodded. Thank you. Evan spoke next, voice low. I owe you one too. I waited. I resented you, he admitted, because you didn't need anyone, and I needed everyone. That honesty surprised me. I thought money would fix that, he continued. Turns out it just exposes it. Silence settled, not heavy, reflective. Then he looked at me. I don't want your money, he said. I want to figure my own life out. I believed him. That was the moment, not the apology, not the acknowledgement, the relinquishing of entitlement. After dinner, I helped clear the table like old times. No one stopped me. No one expected it. Later, Evan joined me in the living room. You never told me what you actually do, he said. I smiled. You never asked without mocking. He nodded. Fair. I explained, briefly. Not to impress.
Just to share.
He listened. Actually listened. You built all that alone? He asked. No, I said. I built it without permission. He smiled faintly. As I drove home that night, snow falling again, I realized something powerful. Revenge stories usually end with humiliation. This one ended with repositioning. I didn't win by proving my worth. I won by refusing to negotiate it. But there was still one last detail left. One final quiet move that sealed everything. Because respect that comes from fear fades. Respect that comes from clarity sticks. And the final proof didn't come from my family at all. It came from what I chose to do next with everything I'd built. The most powerful revenge isn't payback. It's freedom. 3 months after that second Christmas, I made a decision that surprised even me. I stepped away, not from my businesses, but from the version of success that required explanation. I sold my remaining majority stake in one company, kept advisory roles in 2 others, and shifted my focus to something quieter, more intentional. I started mentoring, not publicly, not on social media, behind the scenes. Women who were where I used to be, talented, underestimated, constantly proving. I never told my family at first. Then one Sunday afternoon, my mom asked casually, "Are you still working as much?" I smiled, more selectively. She nodded. No judgment. No sarcasm. That alone told me everything had changed. A few weeks later, Evan asked if I'd review his resume. Not invest, not fund.
Review.
I did. He landed a solid role. Nothing flashy, but real. When he called to tell me, his voice wasn't excited. It was steady.
I earned this, he said.
Yes, I replied. You did. And in that moment, I felt something unexpected.
Peace.
No scoreboard. No comparisons. No need to be the quiet hero anymore. The final shift came when my mom did something small but huge. At a family gathering, someone joked about kids and their fake online jobs. Before I could speak, she said calmly, "Don't underestimate work you don't understand." She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't need to. That was the closure. Not applause. Not acknowledgement of numbers. Respect, given without being asked. If you're still here, listening to my voice, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't owe visibility to people who only value outcomes. You don't owe access to people who mocked the process. And you don't owe explanations to anyone committed to misunderstanding you. Silence isn't weakness. Boundaries aren't cruelty. And walking away from being underestimated is sometimes the loudest statement you can make. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been laughed at, minimized, or suddenly respected only after success, then you already know. This wasn't about money. It was about power. And power doesn't come from proving yourself. It comes from choosing who gets a seat at your table. If this story hit home, make sure to like this video. It helps stories like this reach the people who need them. Share it with someone who's quietly building something powerful. And subscribe to Silent Revenge Lab, because the best revenge stories are the ones where growth speaks louder than anger. Thank you for listening.